This is Mark and Linda Wardell coming to you from the Freedom and Virtue Institute with another cooking video. So today we're going to show you how to make blueberry muffins. Many people like blueberry muffins, and so we hope you like these. This is one of our favorite recipes. So first let me take you through the ingredients that we'll be using for the blueberry muffins. We have white flour, white granulated sugar, we have salt that we just keep here in a little bottle so we for these videos. We have baking powder, again as we had in our chocolate chip muffins. We have vegetable oil, we have an egg, we have milk, we have vanilla, and we have blueberries. Now these happen to be fresh blueberries, but you can also use frozen blueberries, and as is annotated on the recipe that I'll put up here, if you see that second to bottom line there, it talks about whether your blueberries are frozen or not, and if frozen, you should keep them frozen until you use them. So they would still be in the freezer at this time of my talking to you during the making of these muffins. Now here is our method for blueberry muffins. Again, I will put a PDF up on the end of this video for you to see this better, but that's the method that we'll be using for making the blueberry muffins. In addition, we need some bowls as always, and some measuring utensils and stirring utensils. And so without further ado, Miss Linda, let's begin to make the blueberry muffins. So the first thing we have to do is turn on our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit to preheat it. And that has been done, so it is preheating right now as we begin this recipe. So the first thing we do is put the flour, that is 2 1/4 cups of flour, into a large bowl. Miss Linda is using a 1/2 cup measuring device. Here there's one. She's going to do 2 1/4 cups. That's 1 1/2. That's 2 1/4 cup. She's changed over to get her 1/4 cup of flour. There's 2 1/4 cups of flour. Now we need 1 1/8 cup of white granulated sugar. So here we go. Well, we start out using the 1/2 cup, and 2 of those makes a cup. 1 and a 2. And now we need 1/8 of a cup, so we'll use a 1/2 of a 1/4 cup, which is 1/8 of a cup. There's our flour and sugar. Now we need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. A teaspoon, mind you. Don't get that confused with tablespoons, which is much more. 3/4 of a teaspoon. And can you show us the 3/4 teaspoon measuring device that you have?
Well, they don't make them, so
what are we using? We have
a 1/4.
We have 1/2 of a teaspoon and a 1/4 of a teaspoon. And that 1/2 plus 1/4 is 3/4. There's the 1/2. Here's the 1/4 to make 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Now we want 3 teaspoons of baking powder. 3 teaspoons of our baking powder here, and Miss Linda has a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon. And there it is. That a 1/2?
No.
Okay, we need 3 teaspoons. That's 2. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And now the vegetable oil goes in. It's over here, and we need 1/2 of a cup of the vegetable oil.
I'm just going to mix this up first.
All right, let's mix up the dry ingredients. As it says in the method, put the flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt into a large bowl. Now put the oil, egg, and vanilla into a measuring jug. So here's the measuring jug, and we're going to start out with 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. 1/2 cup. There we are. We can see them on the side there. Half a cup, and now we're going to put the egg in. 1 egg goes into there, and lastly the 2 1/4 teaspoons of vanilla. 2 1/4 teaspoons of vanilla is going into the wet ingredient jug. Okay, 1, 2 1/4 teaspoon to make 2 1/4 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay, now Ms. Linda's going to whisk this, the egg, the oil, and the vanilla. Whisk that in the and mix it well, but not over mix it.
No, we haven't put. Just put the milk in.
Oh yes, we need to add the milk. Sorry, the milk is 3/4 cup.
We bring it up to it measures 1 1/2 cups.
So the way that we get that in, because we knew that we had so much in there to start with, we want to bring it up to 1 1/2 total. And Miss Linda's checking that. Can we show that on the video, Miss Linda?
In a minute.
A little bit more. So we started out with, there it is.
It's just a little wobbly because
So just let it sit for a second. There's the 1 and, if you can read that on the side there, we have 1 1/2 cups total wet mixture. Now we're going to add the milk mixture to the bowl. All of it then, and we're going to mix all of the ingredients with a fork. Okay, with a fork. Show us the fork. There we go, the fork. But again, we don't want to overmix. And this mixture is going to be fairly thick. Alright, where it should be if we've done things right here. Alright, so the dry ingredients are now being mixed with the wet ingredients in the bowl here, and it should produce a fairly thick mixture. Don't overmix, no need to. And the next thing Miss Linda will do is fold in the blueberries. So here are the blueberries. And what does fold in mean, Miss Linda?
Well, instead of mixing like this, we're turning it over fairly gently.
So do you see this technique?
It's kind of like folding them in.
Alright, and you don't need to do it too much. Just try to get an even distribution of the blueberries throughout that entire batter mixture, the muffin mixture. Okay, and don't squash them and break them up. Just gently fold it in until they're fairly evenly distributed, just like that. Now we're going to divide the mixture between 12 muffin cups. And again, just as we did with our chocolate chip muffins, we've put some, could you hold one of those paper, yes, one of these paper muffin cups, and we're going to divide now this entire mixture into these 12 muffin cups. Now if you don't use the paper muffin cups, Miss Linda, you can still bake these in the pan, just in the muffin pan. And what would you do in that case?
I would use this cooking spray and just spray the pan.
Alright, just hold that up again. That's canola oil cooking spray. Just give it a light spray in the bottom here, and then they will come out more easily at the end of the day. Now, you've seen that it doesn't take very long to make this muffin mixture. And again, we're dividing it into 12 different muffins. So Ms. Linda will start out with what is close to being the right amount, and then if we have any left over, we will put those in to each one to give them about the same amount of the dough in each pan, in each piece of paper. Okay, you're all familiar with muffin papers. That's just what this is. Alright, so we still have a little bit left over, so we can go back and put more in each one and make some very delicious blueberry muffins. This is a nice tasting recipe, isn't it, Miss Linda?
Oh yes, here it is.
We know.
Now if you use frozen blueberries, make sure you don't take them out of your freezer until you're ready to mix them in, because if you wait until they're thawed, then the dough will also be very blue.
Now what happens, of course, with the frozen blueberries, if you choose to use those, is that they will be hard when you first pull them out of the freezer, and they should mix in quite nicely with the dough that you're making, your muffin dough. But if you let them thaw, then they're going to be very soft, and they'll break up and color your muffin mixture quite significantly during the mixing. So you want them to be hard, rock hard, out of the freezer. Gently mix them in as we did with these fresh blueberries. And now we're going to put a little topping on them, and all we use for this is we sprinkle a little bit of white sugar onto the surface of these blueberry muffins, just as Miss Linda's doing here. Just a light sprinkle of sugar onto the top as a topping before popping them into the oven. Now the cooking time for these blueberry muffins is we're going to start out with a 15-minute timer, but it could be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. So in they go to the preheated oven at 400 degrees, and Miss Linda's going to start by setting them at 15 minutes. There's the countdown, and we will be back in 15 minutes and show you how these look. And maybe they'll need just a little bit longer in the oven, or maybe they will be just right. So give us 15 minutes, I'll pause the video, and we'll be right back and show you how these turn out. Well, welcome back. Our blueberry muffins are in the oven here, and we're down to 15 seconds of our 15-minute cook time. We will check them here as soon as that reaches 0 and beeps, and we'll see just how well these muffins have cooked and if they need a little longer or not. Now Miss Linda's going to use a little toothpick to push through the muffins. Or first, what did you do with your finger there?
Oh, look, they need to go back.
Okay, so they need to go back in the oven for a bit longer. Alright, so that was could you show us that toothpick, Miss Linda? See how the dough has been picked up here by the toothpick. That means that it's not cooked inside, and so they need to go in for longer. So we've given them another 5 minutes. Alright, so that was actually good that you could see that. Perhaps we have a little more dough in there on this particular batch, but again, the 15 to 20 minutes was the cook time that we suggest. Now while they're just finishing off, I just wanted to address this muffin pan with you. Of course, if you go to buy muffins in the store, they're all different sizes. And I just wanted to make sure that you know that when we do our 12 muffin can, that these muffins have a diameter of 2 3/4 inches across the diameter of the upper diameter of these pans. They're on a slight angle down there, and if you measure up the angle, then they are 1 1/4 inches tall or deep. Okay, so again, the particular muffin pans we're using are 2 1/4 inches in diameter by 1 1/4 inches in height, the height being up on the diagonal a little bit. So those are the muffin pans we're talking about We're not talking about the very large ones that you can buy in the store, and we're not talking about the very small ones, smaller than these. These are a kind of a normal muffin pan that you can purchase anywhere, such as
Walmart, Publix.
Walmart or Publix, and so that's the size. 12 holes, 2 1/4 by 2 3/4 diameter by 1 1/4 deep. That's our, and now here we have our tray ready to receive the cooked muffins in a moment. This is to allow them to cool on. If you don't have hot metal on the bottom of them, they'll cool down a lot more quickly than if you leave them in the muffin pan. But if you're going out to the store, you could just take them out and leave them on top of the stove here and come back and get them a little bit later. So we hope that you've enjoyed this blueberry muffin video. Blueberry muffins are a favorite of many people. We like them here, and everyone that we cook them for does. Just a little word on the addition of the sugar topping. Of course, this gives the muffin a little more sweetness, doesn't it, Miss Linda?
Let me show you another one that. Here is one.
So here's a muffin that we've made.
It has sugar sprinkled on the top. Gives it a little sweeter and a little crunchier too on top.
Right, that's the point I was going to make. Often when you go buy a muffin in a store, it's very soft. They don't use the sugar coating on as a topping, do they, Miss Linda?
Some do, some don't. Just depends. Sometimes they put nuts on the top. It just depends on what.
But we're talking about the texture. So the sugar gives it a crispier finish on the top. So if you like your muffins very soft without a bit of a crispy, sweeter topping on them, then perhaps you should not use the sugar on the top. Just try it without the sugar and see if you prefer it that way. But we usually sprinkle a little bit of sugar on the top, but it isn't necessary. Alright, so let's have a look and see what the time is left on our timer here. Are we going to give it the full 5 minutes, do you think, Miss Linda, of additional cooking time?
Well, we could take it out and have a look.
Alright, so I think it could be ready about now. So we're 4 1/4 minutes, and we're going to take it out and check it again with the toothpick. Alright, and see this time if they are ready.
That still had a little bit in it.
Still had a little bit? Alright, let's put it in for... Yeah, no, it needs to go back in, so we pulled it out just a bit early. I was a bit anxious. We'll give it another minute, and then we'll take it out. So again, we wanted to show you that because they're not always perfect at the time you pull them out, and it doesn't take very long just to check them with a toothpick like that, and make sure that the dough in the middle is properly cooked. So that's a trick for you to learn, you youngsters.
Also, another thing would be useful to know if you're making a cake and you test it when it comes out. You might need a bit more than a toothpick. But if dough comes out on it, or if you don't test it and you take it out too soon, then it may look all nice and risen, and then it will just flop and go down and sink.
Alright, so that could happen to these muffins as well, Miss Linda, could it not?
It could.
If they weren't cooked properly in the middle.
Yes.
Alright. So do you think the extra minute is going to be good, or does it need a bit longer than that?
Probably the minute will be good.
Alright, so there's our minute, extra minute. So now they've had a full 20 minutes cooking at 400 degrees. And then we're going to take them out one more time and check them again with a toothpick. I don't think they're quite ready yet, do you?
No.
Alright, one more.
Sometimes they need a little extra.
Yeah, let's give them 2 more minutes in there. So it turns out that we may modify the recipe, and I'm going to change the 15 to 20 minutes perhaps to 20 to 22 minutes. But you know, with fruit in there, with the blueberries in there, you obviously don't want to overcook them either, because they can dehydrate in that heat for too long. That's why we normally,
you can burn them on top.
or you can burn them on top as well. So again, we're going to leave those another 2 minutes in there, and then we'll come back and be with you again when we take them out. I'm pretty sure, looking at the amount of dough that came out on that toothpick the last time we tested them, that we're very close. And so a total for us here today of 22 minutes I think is going to be right. So let me turn off, and we'll come back in another minute and a half and show you again. Well, you can hear the oven beeping, so it's just finished that additional 2 minutes. And let's pull them out one more time and check them yet again with the toothpick.
Looks good.
Okay, why don't you do those 3 across the back, just to be
That
sure.
looks good. I think
All
we're
right,
good.
we've got it this time. So let's bring them over and put them onto our wire tray to cool down. And I could hear one of these blueberries sizzling just then when you took it out of the oven, Miss Linda. So there we go. These have risen up quite nicely, you'll note. You see that? That's quite a nice rise for these muffins. Miss Linda's finding them to be very hot, so just be careful with your fingers that you don't burn yourself when you do this. Miss Linda's fingers are pretty tough at the moment after all the cooking that she does. Your fingers may not be quite so tough, so be careful when you do this that you don't burn yourself. Okay, 3 more to take out, and there is 12 blueberry muffins ready for your breakfast or your morning break at work or school, and you will find these delicious. Just one more reminder, we did sprinkle some sugar on the top of these. That will make the top just a little more crispy than if you prefer them to be soft all the way through, then you could leave that sugar off. Well, thank you very much for watching Blueberry Muffins. We believe that you will love these when you eat them, and let us encourage you once again to be entrepreneurs and perhaps to start a little business of making and baking cooked goods and blueberry muffins, and as we've shown you before, chocolate chip muffins and chocolate chip cookies, and we will do some gingerbread cookies with you on another video on another day. You will be able to sell these and start to make a little money in your business. Or if you prefer, you could go on and make some arts and crafts. We've got some basket weaving videos, we've got a video on making beeswax candles, and we'll have some other crafts for you going up as well. So where do you find all of these good things? Well, you can find them on the Freedom and Virtue Institute YouTube channel, and you can go to fvinstitute.org and you can have a look at those videos there and enjoy baking and making and creating things with your creative capacity. And we hope that you enjoy not only making these blueberry muffins today, but also eating them and enjoying them with your friends, family, and even selling them and starting to make a little money for your business. Don't forget though, when you make money, save 10% of all the money that you make, and that you can put aside for the future. If you're a person who's in middle school or high school, you can save up for college, you can save up for a car or your accommodation or your books. You're going to need financial resources in the future, so start now while you have time and while you have energy, and you will be set for the future.